Okay. All right, so I have everyone muted, but you guys should unmute yourself, and I want to know what you got. Hang on just a second. I'm so sorry. Sorry, guys. All right, so I want to know what you guys thought about these 3 chapters because they were actually my favorite ones. What did you guys think? Anybody have anything they want to share from what they liked best out of these 3? No? You guys are going to be quiet tonight? All right. So just a quick recap of last week. Remember, guys, the book study is awesome. The book is great, but you have to actually put into action these things, right, to move your business forward. So to recap, I want you to think to yourself, and if the answer is no, I want you to make sure you do it this week, okay? So have you practiced your story? Have you changed how you talk to people? Remember, a lot of the stuff we talked about last week was how we talk to people. And the big one, and you guys have probably heard me say this a lot, especially if you've been around for a while, are you doing 3-way calls or 3-way chats? Because I'm telling you, that is how I got to gold, almost all the way to senior gold. And so 3-way chats are imperative. We talked a little bit about last week on how to do them. I think a lot of times people overthink them. I think a lot of times people project that their potentials won't want to do them. So you remember, you just keep it simple and you say something like, hey, Plexus, you're going to love it. It's going to help you, but I don't know a whole lot about it. I'm putting my friend Amy in this message so she can tell you about it. It's super simple, but guys, they're so effective. Even to this day, I still use 3-way chats with Sarah Taylor. I've been doing this 2.5 years and I still use them because a lot of times it's not about me. Mommy. I'm doing my call. I need you to sit. Okay, but I need you to sit because it can't be very loud. Sorry, guys. So I still use them now because remember, it's not about me, and it doesn't mean I don't know what I'm doing. It doesn't mean you don't know what you're doing. It's that third-party validation. So I have 2 people this week that I've met for lunch, and they're both interested in the business. I have put both of them in a 3-way chat with Sarah, and I'm trying to get them on the phone with her. Just because I think if they hear from her too, they will finally get on board and start working the business. So that's the recap of last week. This week is all about follow-up and continuing to learn how to talk to people, but then also it is about objections. So that's the first one with chapter 7. And I really love what she says about objections. I love her spin on it. We talk a lot. We've done training calls before on how to overcome objections, but I think if you keep her kind of frame of mind, it's going to be a lot easier. So what she said is, 1, you want to look at them as requests for information. And I think this is good, and we've done this before. People think it's a pyramid, not because they really think it's a pyramid. It's because they're not really educated on what a pyramid scheme is, right? So it's our jobs to educate them. So that's what she said. Look at objections as requests for more information. It's actually a good thing because when somebody objects, it gives you a doorway into continuing the conversation, right? But the most important thing that she keeps repeating, and this was a theme from last week, and I think this is so important for your business and your mindset, you have to detach from the outcome. You have to not care whether the person says yes or no. Remember, what she's saying is, Plexus is something amazing, and we are just telling everyone about it and waiting for somebody to think it is as amazing as we are, or just waiting for somebody who wants to try it. Okay, we're not in the convincing business. We're not in the selling business. We're just sharing. And so if you detach yourself from the outcome, it's going to make overcoming these objections so much greater. Now, we've done calls on overcoming objections with Plexus specifically, and so you guys can definitely check those out. I mean, we've talked about how to overcome if they say their probiotics better, how to overcome if they say they're just going to eat healthy, how to overcome if they say they just want to go to the gym, how to overcome if they say it's too expensive. But with this, what she's talking about is more in a general sense, and I love that she gave some examples. But the first thing you have to do before you even think about overcoming their objection is you have to not take it personal, right? And that goes to detaching it from the outcome. Don't get defensive and don't take them personal. It's not a reflection of you. It's not a reflection of your business. It's not a reflection of Plex. It's a reflection of that person. So many times I've seen it kill a potential quicker than anything, because here's what happens. You reach out to somebody, they tell you they think it's crap or they think it's a pyramid scheme. That ticks you off. You make a flippant Facebook post, right? Or you make a Facebook post that's a little passive aggressive, and then you lose that potential, okay? You cannot take it personal. Plus, you always, this is something Sarah Cunningham says a lot, you always have to assume positive intent, okay? You have to do that all of the time in this business. You have to assume positive intent with that person. They didn't tell you they think it's a scam or they think it's a pyramid scheme just to make you angry, just to be negative, just to be mean. They really honestly might think that. And it has no negative intent behind it at all. I thought that. I thought this was junk. I thought they were a crappy diet pill. I thought network marketing was a scam. I didn't mean anything negative towards that. That was just what I thought. So what happened when I presented those to Sarah Taylor? She just educated me on why that was not correct, right? So always assume positive intent. But in this, if you keep that in mind, guys, but if you also use her easy method, I love this. So if you go to page 107, she gives examples and her kind of method, and she learned this from somebody who is a veteran in the industry and who is very, very successful. She said, you always respond with a question. And guys, this is something that is so simple, but I think a lot of times we forget. I think a lot of times we forget how to talk to people and how to just have a conversation. Because if people gave you this objection over recommending a restaurant, you certainly would be like, well, why do you think that, right? But instead, a lot of times, because it's Plexus for whatever reason, or it's something we're selling, we're afraid to ask those follow-up questions, okay? So always respond with a question, because a lot of times, like I said, people don't understand what their objection even means, okay? So you always respond with a question. And then she says, really, until you get comfortable really hitting a lot of these objections head on. And listen, you're not going to get comfortable with them until you just keep practicing them all the time, right? And one way to do that is those three-way chats. This is what's really helpful, because then you can see how your upline overcomes some of those objections, right? But you use the feel, felt, found. And I think we've talked about this before. We've had calls on it. Basically, if somebody says anything to you, let's say they're like, well, you know, it's just too expensive. You can say, well, you know what? I totally understand how you feel about thinking Plexus is expensive. I felt that way when I first started. But what I found was, and then you share your successes, right? So you can always use the feel, felt, found for anything they bring you. But what I liked her examples, and I loved her question. This is not something I've done. When I have somebody who gives me an objection, I tell them why they shouldn't have that objection. And that's not right. That's not good. But what she does by giving a clarifying question, we may not even have to overcome the objection at all. I'll give you an example. So she says you have someone who says, well, I don't think I have enough time to do this. Instead of us, what do we always say? We're like, oh, you know, it doesn't take a lot of time. You can do it in the nooks and crannies. You can do it from your phone, right? That really isn't as effective as what she says. She says, well, how much time do you think you actually need to do this? And I love that, because it puts it back on the person. Then we can really understand, well, maybe their objection is they don't have time because they think it's a 40-hour-a-week gig, right? But instead of us just assuming that, let's just ask them a question. So answer their objection with a question. And then she says, you know, I don't have the money to do this. Instead of us telling them how much it really isn't that expensive, or how maybe you could only bottle a vitamin bottle for $30, she clarifies and says, okay, if money wasn't an issue, would you be ready to go ahead and jump in? Okay? And so that kind of gets you to think about all of the things they like about it, so you can focus on that. instead of focusing just on that one objection. And these are other things we get a lot. In fact, I got it today from a girl I had lunch with about the business. She said, I'm not a salesperson. And what did I do? I went right into why you don't have to be a salesperson. But according to this book, what I should have said is, well, why do you think you need to be a salesperson to do this? Why do you think you need to have a sales background? And I love this. I'm going to start doing this. In fact, I have another lunch scheduled on Friday. She throws me up any objections. I'm going to have all these questions in my back pocket, right? Here's another one. I don't know enough people. How many times have we gotten that? In fact, Michelle, you kind of have had that one, right? With your person. Yeah, right? Your hair looks cute in your ponytail, by the way. I don't think I've ever seen it up. How many people do you think you need to know? And that is a great kind of answer the question with a question. But then she goes on to say, we all know a lot of people. Will help you jog your memory. It's way more than just people you're close friends with. One of the things I love about this business is it's not necessarily who you know, but it's who they know and who they know and who they know. So I don't know. I just really, really loved her tackling objections with a question. The other thing she said, though, and I found this to be true, you guys might as well. She says, whatever you're unsure of is what you're going to get objections the most about. Okay? So, and I totally believe this. I think it goes into us projecting these things onto people, and we don't realize we're doing it. We don't realize we're putting off that energy because it's not our intent. But if we really don't 100% believe in our compensation plan, or if we don't 100% believe in Plexus or network marketing, we are going to be projecting that onto them without us knowing it. And those are the objections they're going to give us, right? So that goes with us saying you got to be confident and bold when you talk to some of these people, because you're going to be projecting that onto them without even realizing. So I like it. Oh yeah, I love it. It's like the Welch family night in the DeRocker house. So that was chapter 7. It was a really short chapter. Did you guys have did it make you feel better about overcoming objections? Did it make you think about how you do them?
I thought somebody was going to talk. It was just you, Amy. It's actually interesting because I think some of what you're talking about, like the root of it is really what our reaction is to the objection, not necessarily the objection itself. And so one of the analogies that I took, it's like, think about you having a filter on something, right? So like if I took a picture and it had a smudge on the lens, then I'm going to have a smudge on my picture, right? Because of the way it's filtering. But so a lot of it is what we actually put into the situation, not necessarily the person itself. So although I would love for us to sit here and say, hey, like we can overcome these objections, we can, but I think it starts with you. And so if you're not aware enough of your own mental filter that you're using, I think that's where it starts. Like if you can't figure that out, then that's where you're going to continue to have difficulties, because you're going to overgeneralize, or you're going to think it's all or nothing. They either hate it or they love it. Like there's so much that goes into that, but it starts with you. It's not the other person. But the beauty of that is that's all controllable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you can control your reaction, your filter, your way of projecting, which is the hardest part, I think, right?
Yeah, I love that. That is a great spin on it. And it's true. I think a lot of it comes from us being kind of personally attached to that objection. I really do. And I know too, especially in the beginning when you're not sure and you already kind of have your defenses up anyway, because you're assuming people are going to make fun of you. People aren't going to want to do it. So then I think you're already kind of a little on edge anyway. And so when you get that first objection, you want to just kind of like either bite or shrink away. And that's why I think if you can detach from the outcome, like, hey, you either love it or you don't. I'm just here to share how awesome it is, you know? But I do like her. I think if you ask them a question about their objection, it also kind of takes the pressure off of both of you guys, because you don't have to really worry about overcoming it right away and kind of scrambling to figure out why their objection, because their objection's valid. That's one thing we have to keep in mind. It's a valid objection no matter what it is. whether or not we believe it or not, it's valid because that's their objection. So
right, but right. What we're up against though is our way of perceiving it, our way of interpreting it. That is actually what you're overcoming with a question. And for any of you like Google research nuts out of there, it's totally cognitive distortion. Like it's our own perceptions of what's happening. Which is anybody even gone to therapy, it's the same thing, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Number one step in that though is to know what you're doing. Meaning like knowing that you're happening. Like so being able to catch yourself in the moment that you're reacting to the objection in the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts on that before we go on to chapter 8? It was funny. These were like really short chapters, but so far I think they were the best ones in the book. Like they were really powerful. And I don't know, maybe it was just because it seems like this is kind of the meat of our business right now, like objections and follow up and that sort of thing. So chapter 8 is she's just not that into you, or is she? And I love this chapter. In fact, I think you need to read it twice, then read it again. Even though it was really short, she talks about one of the things that I love that she said is don't be afraid of losing something you don't have, right? So she talked about a lot of times we keep following up with the same people, and we don't go anywhere. And they just stay in our funnel or they stay on our list, right? But she says, oftentimes it's because we are afraid that they will say no. And so if we keep them on our list, then we feel happy about it, right? Because they haven't told us no, but they haven't said yes either. So they're just kind of in there. And then we get frustrated. We have these fence sitters. And it's a false sense of success because it's not important to have a bunch of people on your list, right? That's not the important part. You need to be moving people off the list to put new people on. Okay, and I think a lot about this chapter, again, is just conversing with people, asking them questions, but also not being afraid to ask them for action. She said, don't be afraid to lose what you don't have. They have not said they will join your team yet. So don't be afraid to lose that. She said, let go of the fear of losing what you have, okay? And she said, if you're reaching out to enough people, and remember, she says you should be reaching out to 3 to 5 new people a day. If you're reaching out to that many, then you won't have any attachment to the outcome of any one person. And I mean, I like what she says about detaching from the outcome, but it's also, I know it's hard because this is a relationship business and we have people that we really, really love or we really, really want on our team. And so it's hard to kind of detach from that. I think you detach from what their outcome is or the objection or their no, but you don't detach from the actual person. So when she said that, detach from the outcome of any one person, like you definitely, I don't think, want to detach from that relationship, but don't be afraid of helping them reach a decision because she says you have to do that. If not, it's going to drain you. And we've all been there. I've been there. How many times you look at your list or your follow-up, you've not signed anybody for like 3 or 4 months. You look at your list, you're like, I don't have anybody. I don't have any new people. I've got all these fence sitters. And then you start feeling bad about yourself. You start feeling like you can't do this. You start feeling like nobody wants to do this with me, right? And then you check out or you get in the valley of despair or what? We've all been there because it's draining when those people aren't telling you a yes or a no. So I love this chapter that she talked about ways to kind of overcome and figure out if these people are into you. And if they're not, that's okay too, right? But we would actually rather get a no than a nothing. So she says one of the ways you can help them reach a decision is you use the takeaway and don't be afraid to use it. And this is really only for the business because I started thinking about this for the products and I'm not sure I would use this for the products. But she says, in a very non-emotional, casual way, you just take back the offer that they're not responding to. And one of those things you can say is, hey, I don't think this is the right fit for you. It's not for everyone, but then you can segue into, do you know anyone, since we've talked about it, do you know anyone that it would be good for? So I could see that if we're talking about the business, I don't think I'd ever use that as a way to get someone off the fence for the products. So I don't think I'd ever say, hey, I don't think the products are a good fit for you. You know what I mean? So really she's talking about the business, but she's talking about, you'll find that someone's a fence sitter because you're not asking enough questions to guide them to that decision. Okay. And again, all she talks about in this chapter is how to really ask more questions, right? So if somebody says they don't want to be on a 3-way call or they don't want to be on a 3-way chat, you just ask them, say, okay, I'm sensing that you love the product, you're excited to get started, but you do not want to do a 3-way call. Is that what I'm sensing? And why is that? Right? I think a lot of times, like we talked about and what you said, Sarah, we kind of project or we assume their intent, and we can't do that. So she said likely for that, if they don't want to get on a 3-way chat or a call, it's because they're assuming we're going to gang up on them. So you can be honest and authentic and show her that you're really not attached to the outcome, right? And so she says, look, the last thing I want to do is try to convince you to use our products. That's not it. I want you to be excited about it and eager. But if you're hesitating because you're nervous if they'll work or not, I want to get you on this 3-way chat to help you see how they will work for you. Right? So again, it is just asking more questions, overcoming those objections, and really leading them through, not letting them lead the conversation and not letting them be the one that kind of controls the conversation. Always keep asking those questions, And a lot of it is, she's talking about business builders. And so I keep thinking too, like, Shelly, the girl you have that we really keep trying to get her to do the business. One thing she says on here is, look, if she's not open to a damn conference call, is she really going to be any good at the business anyway? Right? So sometimes it's like, okay, well, I get it that sometimes people have to get out of their comfort zones and we have to show them, hey, you can do this. Hey, it's not about bugging your friends. Hey, it's not about this. But then there eventually comes a point where it's like, okay, maybe this isn't for you. And that's okay. We've done all we can on our part. And that's okay. And then she also goes in and talks about just other people who won't get on the 3-way call. They've gone MIA. And again, this is all about the business. She gives some tips about how to, yeah, I know. Sorry, I just saw your comment about wishing you had this when you first joined. No kidding. So you've done a 3-way call and she won't sign. It all sounds great, but she just can't decide. So what she has them do, and this is great, even if it's not a potential, okay? This is what I was thinking of. If she has somebody who has said, yes, I want to work the business. Yes, I want to get to silver. Yes, I want to do this. Yes, I want to share, but they haven't quite done it, and you can't figure out why they won't just do it. She said you got to kind of spoon feed them. So she has them do 3 things. She tells them to write down their why for wanting to do it, right? We've already talked about that, but make them put it in writing. And then she makes them sit down and write on a piece of paper their list. Now, I know we tell our newbies to make their list, but we're not even proactive enough to actually say, no, write down 20 names and show me the list. Okay, see the difference? It's one thing to tell a newbie, okay, you're going to make your first post, you're going to write your list. It's another thing to say, okay, draft your first post and show it to me. Write down 20 names and show it to me, okay? So she has them do that. And then she has them do something that connects them back to their why. She says, think about your why, and then tell me how you're going to meet that why if you don't pursue this Plexus business. I think that is a really good one. I have never done that before. And she says if they have a plan B, that's great. She has them write it down. And I really like that. I've never thought about it, when we talk about the importance of the why, but we never have people think about how are you going to meet that why if you don't pursue the business or if you quit the business, right? So I really thought that was a really interesting step. I love that. I thought that was a good one. And so that was something you could do with anyone on your team. She's talking about potentials, but I thought you could use that for anyone at any time, really. And I really like that one. So then she says, what do you do when people go MIA? Okay. She says, when, witness protection. She even put that in there. So it's totally an industry thing. So one thing I would recommend for you guys, if you haven't yet, study network marketing, right? Study the industry, study the profession. This isn't just some side gig, right? This is actually a professional industry. So I would study it, because a lot of these things she talks about are just industry best practices, industry standards. So when she talks about going in the witness protection program, it's everyone in this industry besides us have people that go into the witness protection program. And again, she says you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. And again, that's what Sarah Cunningham always says. You have to assume positive intent, right? Because look, lots of things happen. People aren't ignoring you on purpose. They aren't ignoring you because they don't want to do Plexus. They aren't ignoring you because they don't want to talk to you anymore. You've made them mad. So you really have to give them the benefit of the doubt, okay? And I love the examples she gives in her people who are in the witness protection program, right? So here's what she says. She says, if they don't get back to you, she actually says, hey, Mary, I'm just wondering if you're still interested in continuing our conversation. If you're having a hard time telling me no, please don't give it a second thought. I don't have any attachment to your decision. I've got time to talk to you today at X time. Let me know which one works for you. And so I really like that. I think a lot of times we're afraid to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is the person's going to say, no, I'm not interested in Plexus. They're afraid to tell us no, so they just go silent on us. And then we're afraid to actually ask them because we're afraid they're going to say no. So again, detach from the outcome and actually give them permission to tell you no. Usually what happens, because I have done that before, I have done that and I said, hey, look, if this isn't for you and you just don't want to tell me no, don't even sweat it, because you and I are still friends. It's not going to make any difference to me. I just know how much it can help you. But if you want to tell me no, that's no sweat off my back. What usually happens, though, that I found when you do that, people come back and say, oh, no, look, it wasn't that I'm saying no. I just am not ready, or it's not a good time. Check back with me later. And that's usually what it is, okay? But she says, okay, well, if it's still crickets and it's been a couple of weeks and still nothing, she says, hey, Mary, hope you're well. I got to tell you, I'm really, really good at following up in my business. I'm really good at what I do. I'm really good at following up in my business. You've told me in the past that you might be interested in Plexus. So until you tell me no, I'm going to keep checking in with you every so often. And so she said this does a couple of things. It takes the pressure off of them, because all they have to do is tell you no if they don't want you to follow up anymore. But she said she's been surprised too by how many people come back and they don't give her a no. They just say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, it's just not the right time, right? So I love that. I love how you can say, hey, look, I just want you to know because, and you can even say because I care about you so much and I'm really good at helping people have success on these products, I'm going to keep following up with you, I really like that approach. I've done that before, but it's people I'm really good friends with and I know them. And I've said, hey, just so you know, I want you as a partner in this. I want you on my team. I'm going to keep bringing up Plexus until you say yes. Now, obviously that approach, the way I said that may not work for everyone, but what she said does. I love what she said. And again, she talks about don't let your emotions fall when somebody goes MIA. It's not a reflection of you, reflection of them. And she said, don't let it drain you. Just because they have all the same information of you, it doesn't mean they're going to act on it. Don't be afraid of the no's, because the no's get you closer to the yeses. She said you have to just keep talking to people and love the process, not the outcome. Because said if you talk to enough people, you are going to find the ones who are into it. You are going to find the people that come out of witness protection and that are going to do this just like you. But if you're only talking to the same 20 people over and over and over, you're not going to find those people that want to do this with you. So I really like that. What did you guys think about that? Especially the giving people permission to tell you no. Anyone? I'm totally going to try. I'm definitely using that. Like on Friday when I do my follow-up, I've got some that have been MIA. I am telling them exactly what she says right there. And see how it goes. I thought it was great.
So I like that one too, but not to go back to sounding like a broken record, but I can't believe we've just discussed now a second chapter that really, Amy, the root of these chapters are all about the story you tell yourself.
Yeah.
None of this has to do with what they're actually thinking or what they're going to do, or like I say, assume a positive intent. All of it, I can't get over. I think some of this is just retraining our thoughts, and separating ourselves from the emotional reaction to it.
Yep. Yep. And that's hard because even in our day job, we couldn't always do that, right? I mean, even in my day job, I would get emotionally attached to people's responses and things.
Well, because at the end of the day, you want to do a good job. You want to be liked. You want people to, believe in you, and that's okay. But I think at the end of the day, what she's telling us is that if you ask questions, if you start the dialogue, it gets you out of that negative thinking and actually probably gets you to the root of what they're trying to do or what they're thinking. So
yes.
It's just interesting to me. I think at the end of, like you said, study network marketing or think about, what this business is about. But really, all of what I've heard her say so far is that you get in your own way with your thought processes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's blunt, but that's truly what she's saying right there.
Right. It's so true. Well, and the other thing too is, sorry, I just had it in my head. You're just talking about it. I'll remember it.
Squirrel.
I'll get it back. What did you just say before that?
No idea. He missed the opportunity. It was good in the moment.
It was really good in the moment. I had to watch the recording. It'll come back to me. Detaching from the outcome. Anyway, daggone it. Okay, so I love that, and you're right. It's all reflection of us. That's why this business is so hard. That's why this business is so hard. It's not that it's rocket science. It's because it makes us look at ourselves, and it makes us do things we're not comfortable with, and it makes us, do these things. Oh, I know what I was going to say. A lot of this is talking to people. That's all it is. But I think because we're doing everything nowadays in social media, I think that actually makes it harder. I think that hinders us. That's why all these books like GoPro, Rock Your Network Marketing, and now this one tell us to meet people for lunch, meet people for coffee, get out from behind your screen, because then it is a lot easier to just talk to people. Whereas when you're on a text message, you're interpreting feelings that aren't there, and they're interpreting feelings or intent that aren't there. And that just makes it even that much harder. So that was what I was thinking about that.
I think that's perfect. So in a sense, again, you're telling yourself a story based on limited knowledge of what you know. But if you get in front of somebody, it's harder. They can't hide from you either, right? So it's an honest conversation. And as friends, I would hope you would say to me, listen, it's really not for me, and I'd be okay. But I think we need to remind ourselves a no is never a no for good. It's often a we'll see you later when we decide that it's right for me.
That's a good segue into chapter 9, because she even says that. Chapter 9, the fortunes in the follow-up. I believe I highlighted it here somewhere. Yeah, page 124. You must remember that no really means not right now. And so this one, I think, is a hard one because most people think about it as a one and done. You talk to somebody one time, they tell you no, and you don't follow up with them again. Or maybe you follow up with them a couple different times. I think the hard one is where we know you have to keep following up 6, 7, 8 times. That's what's hard. I certainly have lost people because after 7 times, I quit following up. And the last time I did that, 6 months later, the person posted her first Plexus post on Facebook. She joined somebody else's team. So we know that's a mistake. We know, I just think of all the times I said no. Sarah, you probably would have said no 9, 10, 11 times had I not just told you have to do it. When I just sent you the pink sticks in the mail. But most people, they're going to say no several times, right? Or they're not, it's going to take several follows before they commit. One thing I like, though, that she said is, people, keep in mind, again, don't make it personal. And she said that there's so much amount of noise in our heads nowadays. I mean, especially with social media and all of the technology. Somebody posted on Facebook the other day and said, what did we used to do in the bathroom before we had our phones? And I think that a lot. Like every time I'm like at a stoplight or in the bathroom, I'm almost always on my phone. think of how much noise then is going in our head. Whereas 10, 15 years ago, you were at a stoplight or in the bathroom, you maybe had the Reader's Digest in the bathroom. Like maybe that was it. But there was less noise in our head. And so she said nowadays with all that stuff happening, people aren't thinking about Plexus, right? They got too much stuff going on. And we say that all of the time. What do I always say? We think about Plexus 28 hours a day. These people are not. So one, she said you got to keep that in mind. And then the other thing is what you're talking about may be so far from what she's even thinking of doing that it's going to take you to follow up several times before it even clicks in her head that it's something she needs, right? If you have people that haven't even thought they need a supplement, it's going to take you following up several times before they realize, oh yeah, maybe I do need that, right? So I love that. And she said, look at the research. Unless you're a superhero, human behavior in our noisy world dictates that you're going to have to talk to people multiple times. And the sooner you realize that, then the easier your follow-up is going to be. And you have to be in love with the process, she says, right? Don't think of follow-up as a chore. Again, detach from it. Don't think that because, they ignored you or they said no or they weren't ready that they're not going to this time. You have to detach from it. She says failure comes not from getting the no's. Failure comes from failing to keep following up with the no's. And she said the golden rule of network marketing is you reach back periodically to everyone you've talked to unless they've already joined your team or are a customer or they've flat out told you, do not contact me again. Right? So I love that. She says, if you don't, you're just missing out on a whole lot of yeses that would happen if you would just keep talking to them. So I really love that. And one thing she talks about before we get into some good follow-up examples, and I know we have a couple people on the team who think this a lot, especially if they're really a people pleaser, they usually think they're being pushy. Right? And so she addresses this again to remember back in the early chapters, you're not being pushy, you're being professional, right? That's what is being professional in this business is the follow-up. So she gives a story here about her childhood best friend who ignored her for 6 months, but she kept following up and she finally joined. And you guys have heard me tell stories before of people that ignored me forever. But I kept following up with them and they finally eventually jumped on board. So, in fact, the 2 people I signed this month, I don't know if you guys saw, I put it in a message thread. The girl I signed on Monday, I literally have been talking to her about Plexus since my very first Plexus post in March of 2015. I've been following up with her all the time, not every single month, obviously in 2 years. She has lupus. And she has Hashimoto's, and she's a teacher. And I have been just keeping that relationship, following up. She's even told me before, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm ready. And then nothing. So finally on Monday, and that's 2.5 years of follow-up. And then the girl who signed under me on Wednesday, she's my housekeeper. She has been watching me do Plexus in person in my house since March of 2015. She's tried all the products. She sees me mailing you guys prizes. She sees me doing videos. Like she sees all of it. And she just joined after 2.5 years. So I think those are good lessons. Yeah, Melissa says it was a good chapter. Work on the follow-up. And I think it's easy, too, to get in a follow-up rut, right? We get in a follow-up rut where it's like, hey, just checking back in. Are you ready? Or, hey, we have a coupon. Hey, there's a special. Hey, there's a 7-day challenge, right? It's like we get caught in these follow-up ruts, or at least I have felt that way. So I love some of her examples here of reasons to reach out to people. And some of these, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's brilliant. Why did I not think about that before? So the first one she said, the reason number 1 to reach back out to people, to update them on your business. That's brilliant. I have not done that before at all. And I think this would even be good to reach out to some maybe white lines or some people that have maybe gone and quit working the business a little bit. She said, whenever you hit a big milestone, it's great. It's a great reason to loop back to people. It can even be a little milestone. But I do think you have to be careful that you don't want to come off like you're bragging or boastful, right? You could just say something like, hey, I wanted to update you on my business because I'm really seeing some traction here since we last talked. You know, I've had 7 promotions on my team. I really think you should take another look at it. I think it would be fun and you'd really be great at it. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was great. They could still tell you no, but I thought that was a really great way to reach back out to somebody. She even, talked about how you could reach back out, like if, you won something, or even, I thought you could even use this for Plexus. Like you could be like, hey, just wanted to let you guys know that I had 3 people, or 3 of my customers, they all lost weight in the past 4 months. I really think, that we're seeing so much success with this new Slim, you should think about it again. So it just puts a different spin on the follow-up that I liked. Update them on your business. The other one that she points out that you could use as follow-up, and I've done this before too, you totally fall on your sword. We usually use this for white lines, but look, you can use this for anybody. You can use this for anybody. She's like, hey, remember when I talked to you several months ago about Plexus? Yeah, I want to be honest with you. I was brand new, and I really don't think I did a good job of talking to you about Plexus. I probably confused the hell out of you. But now that I got the hang of it and I'm seeing how amazing this business and these products are, I would love to do a do-over so you can really understand what Plexus is all about. I like that. So I like how she just puts this spin on it. And you can tell in her verbiage what she uses, she's not trying to convince people. She's not giving them too much information. And she really is kind of detached from the outcome. I don't know. You just get that sense when you read it. So she said reason number 2 to reach back out, and I think we talked about this one a lot, is new product launches, right? So whenever we have a new product launch, you can use that as a way to follow up with people. But you also can use it as a way to reach out to people. She gave a really good example, like, hey, last couple times I've seen you at the gym, you complained of being really tired, so I just had to reach out and tell you that we have a new formula that's clinically proven to increase your energy. I thought you might want to take a look at it, right? Keeps it super simple. Don't have to go into the ingredients or anything about it. Just tell them, hey, I've seen you complain about this. I want to let you know we've got this with the studies behind it. Thought you might want to check it out, right? I love that. Love that really simple approach. You also, though, can use this not only for follow-up. Anytime there's anything new, like a new product, you also can use it to send emails, to everyone in your downline. Remember, guys, you have your whole downline in your back office. You have access to all their information. So if you're not sure your people sent a message about new Slim, you could do it to everyone on your team, right? Send an email to everyone about new Slim, all your customers, all your white lines. I just think it's a really good reason to reach out to people when there's a new product launch. Reason number 3 to reach out, she said, is if there's an event in their city. And this really, I think, is good about the business, but it also can be for the products. But that means you have to be connected to the local ambassadors in your area and either host something, right, or host an opportunity meeting. But we also use these for like online events, so that's always a good way to follow up. And I think we do that probably a lot. Like, hey, why don't you check out this happy hour, or wait, hey, we have a 7-day trial. I think you'd be interested in it, that kind of thing. Another reason she gives to follow up with people is good news or media coverage about your company. And I never do this. This is the one that I thought was brilliant. Like, Plexus is awesome. Why wouldn't we use this as a way to follow up with people, right? I just think it's great. So when we built the new building, or when we got the AAA BBB, the A+ on the BBB rating, or when we're in direct selling news, or when we're in Inc. 5000 best companies. Like, why wouldn't we use that as a way to follow up? I think that's great. She even gives some samples, or examples. She'd say, hey, I know we've talked about Plexus before and it wasn't really a good time for you, but I thought you just might want to take another look because Plexus was just featured in direct selling news about how our business is allowing anyone to create, the life of their dreams, or whatever you wanted to say. I just thought that was a great way to follow up. And, Plexus, we have tons of that information. If you guys don't know it, because I think it's not like it's something you're going to find on Google News, right? Or it's not something they email us about. We kind of have to dig for it. But if, maybe we could put a file or something on Rockstars of like all of the awards and accolades our company has, and then you can use that to follow up. The other one I loved, which is kind of a different way of thinking about it, is she said to be a go-giver. Did anybody wonder what that was? I did when I first read it. She said to be a go-giver to people in your network, you have to learn about them. And this goes back to what we talked about earlier, is you have to be focused on them and the relationship. So this is brilliant. And this comes back to following up with people, not about Plexus, right? So if you have a potential, you want to make sure you're engaging with them just as a person and using that relationship. And that way, if they mention anything to you, you're going to be able to follow up with them about that thing. But you have to write it down and put it on your list. So one of the examples she gave is she talked. Yes, I can. Go ahead. Sorry, guys. Potty pause. So she said, for instance, if she knows a potential is looking for a babysitter, right? She's going to wait until she finds a babysitter or she hears of someone, and she's going to use that as a way to follow up. And that almost always brings the conversation back and is a great way to follow up. She said also, like she had met a nurse at an event somewhere, and she just wrote her down on her list. And then she said 3 months later, she came across an article about nursing and healthcare, and it had people from her area where this woman lived. So she just forwarded her the article and said, hey, this made me think of you. I thought you'd find it interesting. I keep up with you on Facebook. Looks like you had a great spring or something like that. And that's it. So I like that because that takes the pressure off of follow-up. You're being nice. You're being friendly to that person. You're helping them, right? Or you're chatting with them, but it takes the pressure off of Plexus, okay? I actually did that with Jen Buckley. I know she's not on the call because she's running an online event right now, but that's totally what I did with her, guys. I followed up with her for like 7 or 8 months in a row. She ignored me as big as you please. She was the one where you scroll back and it's just me talking to myself basically in our chat. And then finally, she got that certification for her spin instructor. And I went and I looked up how she could be a spin instructor at the resort we go to in Jamaica, because that's how I know her. And I sent her a message and said, hey, congrats on your spin. I thought you might be interested to know that if you want to teach in Jamaica, you can stay at our resort for free. And I sent her the link. And that's what brought her back. And that's the follow-up I used with her to get her to join. Another one that she gave an example to as being a go-giver is giving people social media shout-outs. I thought this was really good too. And I realized I'm kind of doing this without realizing it with a local girl here who I have now. I met her at the gym and she has her own t-shirt shop. And so I'm having her make all of my Plexus t-shirts and stuff now. And I've given her some shout outs on her business page. And she said, so that's a way to follow up with people without even realizing it, right? Because really follow up is all about those relationships and connections with people, okay? Another reason to reach back out is if people have a pregnancy, a new baby, or if their kids are starting school. Because she said sometimes when all of those things happen, of course their priorities change, their what's in it for me changes, and so that's always a good way to follow up. And of course, she also talks about postpartum prospecting, which sounds terrible, but she said whenever one of her friends gives birth, she marks it on her calendar to reach out to her 4 months after the person's had the baby. And she does that because she knows how hard it is to leave your baby when your maternity leave's up. And so she says she remembers just how gut-wrenching it was to her. And so she doesn't use that as a way to follow up and say, hey, you're going back to work. Wouldn't you rather be working Plexus and staying home? She says no, she just reaches back to them genuinely as a mama going back to work. But then that's a way to follow up and bring that conversation back, right? And then another way, reason number 7, she said, to follow up with someone is when someone just like them succeeds. I really like this idea too. I'm going to start doing this. I only do it with diamond documentaries, and I realize they probably can't relate to that. I mean, sure, they might both be a teacher. They might both be on food stamps like the Christy White diamond doc. But in reality, that person's already at the top of the company. They probably can't relate to them anyway, right? But what she says is she gave a really easy example. Like, hey, Lisa, I was just thinking of you because I had a teacher join my team last night. My new partner, Mary's really excited for me to help her build a business that's already going to match her teaching salary. I couldn't help but wonder if you wanted to take another look at the business opportunity because I know you would love to be able to make that extra income just like Mary. I thought that was brilliant. Like, how many times do we have, and look, guys, they don't even have to be in your downline. You can use all of Pink Rockstars. I mean, how many times do we have like a new nurse join the team or a new teacher or a new stay-at-home mom or anything like that? You could totally use that as a way to reach out. I thought that was pretty good. And I'm definitely going to be doing that one. And then, of course, she talks about anytime somebody earns something, she's plastering it all over Facebook. And that's one thing that I've started doing. If you've noticed, I started celebrating ranks that aren't even on our team. People don't need to know that. It's a rank in Plexus. That's all they need to know. So she says, you better believe every time somebody earns a free Lexus or a trip in our company, I reach out to every person I know who's exactly like that person. So if it's a realtor, she says, that earned the Lexus, she's reaching out to all of her realtor friends that are on her list. So I really like that. I really like that idea of how to follow up. Because she says if you don't follow up, guys, you're leaving money under the table. And she said to light a fire under you, because she wants you guys to get into action. And this is what I'm going to do this myself. I think you guys should too. Every day for the next 6 days, pick one of the follow-up reasons and think about who you can reach back out to using that reason. Shoot for 3 people for every reason. So 7 times 3, that'd be 21 people in the next 6 days. And she said if you do that, you'll train yourself to constantly think of all the different ways to follow up with people, and it'll become more of a habit. But she says to light a fire under your follow-up, think of this. How pissed are you going to be if you reached out 4 times to someone, but it wasn't until someone got them on the 5th exposure, right? That's what I've told you guys before. You reach out to someone 4 times. Let's say we know that person, it's going to take the 5th reach out for them to actually say yes, but you quit after 4 times. Then some newbie comes along who's never talked to them about Plexus before, talks to them about Plexus at one time, and that's all it's going to take for them to join. So she says, how pissed are you going to be if you reached out 4 times to someone, but it was someone else who reached out on the 5th exposure, and she joins that person's team or becomes that person's customer when she should have been yours. So I thought that was a great way to end the follow-up chapter. Because a lot of times I know when we've had people join someone else's team, and I've had it happen to me, the first thing we do is we assume negative intent. We assume that person stole them. We assume that person didn't tell them they were working with another ambassador. And really, it's just a good lesson in follow-up for ourselves. But it's a hard pill to swallow, right? It's easier to blame someone else than to look at ourselves and be like, dang it, I should have followed up better. I should have followed up more. So what did you guys think of the follow-up chapter? Anyone? All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Guys, we're kind of quiet. But, here we go. What do you mean? You bought lip syncs from someone that you don't even know, but the person who asked me, the person who asked you about
originally. I think what she's saying is the person that originally approached her went MIA, so she ended up buying from somebody else that she doesn't know because they were available.
Gotcha. Yes. Yep. Totally see that.
I've done that too.
Oh, there we go. I didn't know how to unmute.
Oh, there she is.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm over here trying to type. Yeah, so somebody kept asking me, and I was like, I don't want that. I don't want that. I'm not going to spend money on that. And then my friend just added me to one of those groups last night, and I was like, I think I'm going to try it. I don't even know who the girl is, but she was so happy because I was just added in, and then I bought it from her. And I was like, the girl who asked me 5, 6, 7, 8 times disappeared.
Right.
I don't even know who it was.
Right.
But she should have kept following up because I was ready.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I know. And a lot of times, though, I think when we're that person, right, and we see someone, so let's say if that was flip it, and you see that person went and bought Plexus from someone else, you're like, well, daggone it, if they wanted Plexus, why didn't they come back to me?
Yeah.
Instead, they're thinking, why didn't Amy follow up with me again? Like, why did she quit talking to me? You know?
Yep.
So, yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, sorry, I'm been taking notes this whole time on the call, on the book study in case I want to do it again. So, all right, guys. I loved it. I thought it was great. I'm going to do those things. I hope you guys do too. I hope you really take all these actions. And I think I'm even going to write those reasons for follow-up on on a piece of paper really big and hang them on my board. And then I'm going to practice those clarifying questions. So that way when somebody brings it up, I kind of have them already in my head because I love those.
So then if we're writing things on our whiteboard, then we should probably write on page 125 her second paragraph where she tells us to repeat after ourselves on follow-up that we're not being pushy, we're being professional.
Yep, like I have that underlined.
I love that, right?
I'm not being, yep. Well, you know who I kept?
Positive affirmation.
That made me think of Amy Morton a lot because I know she feels like she's doing that a lot to people, right? Because she's such a people pleaser. She doesn't want to be pushy. So every time I read that, I think of her. So I'm like, I think that's a good spin on it. You're being professional. So, all right, guys.
Thanks, Amy.
So wait, let's look here real quick. I was going to we have 2 more weeks, right? And I think if I did the math right, next week is 10, 11, and 12. Yep. And then the week after that, we have to do 13, 14, 15, and 16. Maybe should we check and see how big? Let me go ahead and stop recording.